Happy
Hi, Jane.
Friday.
Yes, happy Friday, LinkedIn Internet.
Yes. So we're back and we thought today we would maybe jump in a little bit more to some of the nuggets that came out of our conversation with Amanda last week and build on that a little bit. And maybe I'll start it off with some of the like highlights and things that you wanted to jump off on from that conversation last week, Jordan.
Yeah, so it's been on my mind ever since we had the chat. I don't know about you, but I've had a lot of really quality conversations about people who, hey, you said the quiet thing out loud, and that's awesome. I think it's in a lot of more people's heads than maybe we all estimated that are looking for a different set of priorities. And I think that's really what it comes down to is it's not that business isn't a priority. It's not that they don't want to build something awesome. It's that it's not the number one thing that drives their life. And I think that's the big difference to me. I've seen a lot of people who are trying to build a business in the way they think it needs to be built. So an accountant building an accounting firm, plumber building a plumbing company. And a lot of them just turn into then they just have a job doing the thing and grinding it out for 10, 20 years until they can sell it to somebody. And then maybe then they get to enjoy. And I think the counter argument is what if you built those businesses intentionally, not the way they've always been built, but in the way that respect your priority set as a founder? And a lot more founders, I think, are putting that family and self up first, which
Yeah.
I really, really believe you look at the ones who are doing really, really well, they're generally the ones with people who have life, like they're full on life, and then they can give a lot back to the business. Whereas if the business is first, when we hit the momentum wave, the energy wave, sure, we can put all our focus into it. But as soon as we hit that first obstacle, we have it's like sitting on a stool with missing a leg. If the life and family and those things aren't taken care of and settled. So that's really what's been sticking with me the last little while is just how do you find the appropriate balance? Amanda's comment of taking that step back and asking like what even is the business I want it to have? Like what are my life goals and how does it support those life goals versus, yeah, I could build the scaling super big team, widespread manufacturing company. That's not what she wanted. That was really cool. I think that was the one that stuck with me the most.
Yeah. It is so easy for your business to get away on you a little bit. And again, back to something she said, this idea of like your business running you instead of you running your business. But you can end up going down some direction or some niche that you never really intended that was maybe interesting to start. But as you start going down it, you're like, wow, this is working. We're making money. We've got momentum, but this isn't actually what we want to do. And this isn't filling our cup, and
Totally.
it's hard to get off that track once you're on it. It takes a lot of strength to sort of make that pivot when you need to.
Yeah, totally. I think part of it comes too from, you want to build a business. So you build a business, but then once the business is built, your role in it, you've realized you've never really intentionally planned. You just want to have a business. And I think what I'm seeing and realizing more is that if you ask that question earlier on, what do I want my role to be in this business? What do I want to wake up and be doing every day? And you build towards that, you still get the business outcome, but you also get a role that you're going to enjoy, not a future that'll hopefully reward you, like an exit or once you can get out of doing this day to day or whatever it is that your role ended up being. You're in this like waiting game to in the future it'll get better versus building for like, how do I build so tomorrow I can do things that I'm good and love doing?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that Amanda's really was like the peak point of this, but I think all of these lives that we've been doing, all of the guests that we've spoken to, it really does start to center around this idea that we should be building our businesses, but also our workplaces. For those that are a part of big corporations and big organizations too, we need to be building our workplaces in a way that make people's lives better and not worse. And, there's an argument from lots of people to say like, well, of course we're making their lives better. We're paying them. We're paying them however much we're paying them every year. Like they need that to live. We're making their lives better. Great. There's lots of places that people can go and get a job paying the same amount of money. Hopefully, I mean, we're obviously privileged in a lot of ways that we've got some options and that might be harder for some people than others. But in theory, okay, there's different places we can go to make money. The differentiator for what's going to make you stay is a job that fits into your life, that makes your life better, that isn't bad for your health and well-being, but also not even like health and well-being, a job that's convenient to a certain extent, a job that doesn't inconvenience you, right? And
Totally.
we've heard some of the folks that we talk to a lot and have partnered with, people like Joe O'Connor, saying like the real differentiator, the real talent retention differentiator will be workplaces that make your life better. And when I look at workplaces that are making these shifts around flexibility, right, we continue to see these shifts where an organization has said, okay, we're committed to to 4-day work week, or we're committed to hybrid. You can work from home 2 days a week. You can work from home 3 days a week. And we see organizations slowly starting to peel that back in many cases. I had another conversation with somebody this week, and what they don't realize is they're impacting well-being, but they're also adding a layer of inconvenience. And
Mm-hmm.
some people want to be in the office all the time. Great. They should do that if that is convenient and right for them. But for the folks that are really thriving in working from home 2 or 3 days a week, well, it's a massive inconvenience to all of a sudden say, like, well, I have a certain cadence of like how I walk my dog that day, or, I get my food delivery on that day, or I go to the gym right after work and I have a shorter commute to do that, or whatever those lifestyle things are, that they now have to figure out and work around. By making people's lives more inconvenient, you're having an impact on their engagement. You're having an impact on how they feel about being in that workplace and whether that's
Totally.
where they're going to stay. And so it's not just about like, oh, I just want to be working at home. Like there's all of these other factors that have gone into it where people have decided, well, my life's actually a bit better this way. And we're messing with that
Exactly.
when we make those decisions.
And I had this conversation this morning with somebody where there's a lot of, I think, especially tech companies, not necessarily, it's probably happening in a whole bunch of others, but they feel right now they have the upper hand as the employer, which I would agree they do. A lot
Yep.
of employees are looking. There's a big talent pool out there of pretty good people. Hard to sift through and find them, but they are out there. And I think the employers are starting to feel like, well, now we can take back. We can take back the hybrid. We can take back the remote. We can take back the fill in the blank convenience that we've offered in the past. And like, where are they going to go? But I think the short sightedness there is, sure, where are they going to go? But just like for me and a whole bunch of people that I work with who focus on small business, and like there is the competitor you fight with is often not somebody else. It's the person you're targeting doing nothing, right? So yes, they can't leave, but they can engage less. They can be a little bit less involved in the business. They can think about it less often. There's all these ways where they can still get what they need done, but be less engaged with the business. And I think what that turns into is this idea of like missionaries, mercenaries, or whatever you want to label them as. But you have people who believe what you believe. Like they're there for the reason why, the Simon Sinek, all that kind of good stuff that you've spent all this time building up. But then if you take away, that only goes so far. And if their conveniences aren't there that they've come to expect, and if that mission starts veering a little bit, you're going to turn them into a mercenary. And sure, for the next year, two, however long, you might have control over the way they go. But any employer has got to know this is comes in waves,
Yeah.
right? Like we're a year or two away or past where the employee had all the power and the employer was tripping over themselves to get top talent. So you're short-sighted if you think that's not going to come back again.
Absolutely.
And so if you pull, when the time comes, guess who's leaving?
Yeah, absolutely. And that cycle will always come back around.
Totally.
And it applies to the money piece of things too, right? Like, oh, well, we're paying this person so well. Well, we want to pay people well, and we certainly want to pay people what they're worth, and we want people to have a living wage no matter where they're working and what they're doing. But there is this idea of golden handcuffs too. Like you've paid somebody so
Totally.
much that they now stay in a job that doesn't make their life better, that they don't enjoy doing. It impacts their engagement, but it's hard to leave because they can't go make that same amount of money anywhere else, right? And I've seen that with people in my life who've had a hard time making a change they knew they needed to make because they were lucky enough to sort of find this role that maybe actually paid a bit beyond what it should have paid in some cases. At the end of the day, like we talk about that idea of work-life balance. And I know we don't talk about that the same way we used to, but we kind of used to talk about it like there's like a work Jordan and a home Jordan, right? And we've realized like there's one person, and how things are going at work impact the rest of your life. How things are going in the rest of your life impact your work. For most people, for most of us, we're not compartmentalizing. We've got to be looking at how work fits into our life instead of fitting our life into our work. And traditionally, that's how it worked. You had a workplace, a schedule, and work was work. And you didn't expect to be able to get life admin and things done while you were at work. But that's not realistic anymore. Right. And everybody to a certain extent now expects that they will have a little bit of flexibility, or they will have a little bit of that like work-life integration piece of things, that if I work every evening this week, that next week I can leave early for my kids', holiday concert or soccer game or whatever. And people expect that level of balance.
Totally. I've always struggled with, and I ask this often with like Joe, again, we have such poor measurement systems of people's true contribution. not output. We have plenty of those and they all suck. But for true contribution, we have so little. And to me, it's not even a matter of, well, you worked a bunch of evenings, so therefore next week you can leave early. Like, it's such an antiquated, like, I totally agree that's how it works. And you're absolutely right that's how it works. But I wish there was still a better way, because butts in seats will never, ever, ever be equal to contribution. I don't care. Like, I will die on that hill, and I'm sure lots of people who will as well. It just doesn't transfer. I could sit in this chair for 24 hours. I can guarantee you I'm not going to get 24 hours of work done. Like, it does not matter. And I think we need these better ways of measuring, because I don't know if you found this when you started off on your own journey as a founder, but I got this advice early on that when you do entrepreneurship, you are building you, and the business will be a reflection of you. And so if you aren't skilling up, if you don't have the foundational things done for life, your business will be a reflection of it. Chaotic life, chaotic business. Stressed life, stressed business.
Mm-hmm.
But for some reason, when it comes to employer-employee, we forget that. And like, an employee, to me, and I know I have a biased view on this, but every employee, especially heading into this future with AI enabled and everything, should be thinking somewhat entrepreneurial. And if we want really quality employees who are looking for better ways to do things and make actual contribution, we got to treat them like entrepreneurs, which means them in their life will be a reflection of them as an employee. And I think it's really short-sighted to take so much away. I'm not saying everyone is, but so many of the answers to, like, oh, we need to hit productivity goals, we need to hit this market cap goal, come down to, well, then we better get people with butts in seats faster. We better take vacation away. We better restrict this benefit. And it's so backwards to me. Like, I just don't understand. I have a real struggle understanding, like, why that is the first thing we go to.
And it's why, if organizations can't figure out that entrepreneurial piece and how to leverage those folks that want to operate that way, it's why I think we'll continue to see an even bigger shift to consulting and solopreneurs and the gig economy. I feel like right around the time that I made this move to sort of go out on my own was the same time that a lot of people made this move to go out on their own, like there's a lot of people that have moved into this space in the last 3 to 5 years. And we're going to find organizations, because they can't make lives better and can't attract and hold on to talent, are going to say, well, actually, we just have to hire this consultant or this gig person or this contract person for all of these specialized things, because they're going to have people saying, yeah, I'd rather be in control of my own schedule and I'd rather integrate in my own way for my life. And I think that that's a movement that we'll continue to see over the coming years.
I totally agree. You and I have talked many times. If I had this like TED talk in the back of my head that is brewing over the course of years at this point, and I think it's really coming. It's starting to hone in where it hasn't changed for a while. Like, I really think the future is going to be much more entrepreneurial than it has in the past. I think you're going to see a lot more fractional. You're going to see a lot more contract. You're going to see a lot more consulting, freelance, gigs, because given we can AI enable most things now and in the short-term future, we're not going to need a whole bunch of generalists. We're going to need some. We're going to need the right ones, but we're going to need people operating at their best, regardless of generalist or specialist, in their top like 3 things that they do better than everybody else. I just want that person for those things. I don't want them in meetings and taking notes and coordinating on Slack and managing Jira. Like, what a waste of time. If they're the best customer research person, I want 100% of their time spent researching customers. And I think that's the future we're heading towards, but only if these employers and companies can find the way to give people that freedom and the actual benefits and convenience that matter to them, and not a cookie cutter one size fits all. It's hard work, but would you rather hard work and keep the best people? Or would you rather slough off and hope for the best? Like, I think this one's worth doing and investing in those people that you really, really want to have around.
Yeah. And I think you actually get better results. And we've heard that term of like, oh, nobody wants to work anymore. Nobody wants to work like we did years ago, and whatever that is. And there's a question of like ambition. And even I have that a little bit over these last couple of years of really figuring out, like, I'm like, am I still as ambitious as I used to be? Am I less ambitious? Like, how are things shifting? How are things changing? But I think what it comes down to is many people, younger people than us, are looking at ambition not just for their work. Their ambition is for their life and how their life is going to feel. And I think when we grew up in our 20s and you thought about ambition, you thought about career, a certain title, a certain amount of money, working for a certain type of company, whatever that is. I think that our next generation coming in and I'm sure there's many exceptions, but generally I think people are much more ambitious for a certain kind of life. And yes,
Yes.
work fits into that, but it's not all about work. And I feel like the conversations that we're having, that's a shift for us too, right? And going back to the conversation with Amanda last week, it's an ambition for how you want life to feel and not just how you want life to look, because life can look pretty good on social media and in a
Yeah.
lot of ways, and you can be checking all the boxes of all the things, but like, how do you actually day in, day out want your life, your business to feel?
Yeah, behind the scenes, right? Not everyone's going to highlight reel all the best stuff for all the social media. We're past the point of that changing. Like that's just life now. Is social media will be a highlight reel, and maybe it should be. Maybe it shouldn't be, but I think that boat has sailed. We are here now. But I think the next thing is like, how much do people want to take control over the life that they get to live behind the scenes? And up until now, I think a lot of it has been grind, hustle, go hard so that you can create more highlight reel moments. And I think what people are going to start realizing is that is to get someone else's approval of success. Amanda's a perfect example. Again, she had to everyone else, right? Why would you stop that? Why would you do all the pouring? All these insane questions from everyone else to look at it and be like, you're so successful in these objective terms we can all agree on, but none of them get to see the life she gets to live behind the scenes except for her. And I love the fact that they're like, stop, let's take a step back. Let's evaluate, like, what did I want when I started? Because it's my business, right? You built it. Why build a trap that you don't want to be in, right? Like, you have full control. I think we forget about it sometimes, that like, if you chose entrepreneurship, you actually chose to get to decide every single thing and what happens, who does what. Now, you might feel like you have to do certain things, but that's just a problem to solve. And guess what? You get to solve it instead of waiting for a CEO, director, someone to give you permission to. I think that's the big difference. And I love that she took a step back and made a decision that fit her life, that no one else, it made sense for no one else, but that's okay. They're not living her life. They don't know those details. And so she picked the thing that mattered most to her. I loved that. That has stuck with me the most.
And it's applying that from the entrepreneurial side to the employee as a part of a larger organization side of things, to make it an okay situation where people take steps back in their career, right? Like, we have folks that maybe move forward in their career, end up in a big role, big team, big responsibility, but like, maybe life doesn't look so good when they take all of that on, or depending on where they're at and what they want to do. Love to see workplaces evolve again a bit more into that like jungle gym piece of things, where sometimes you're like, actually, I'm at a period right now where I'm going to take 2 years and I'm going to step back, into a like technical individual contributor role, but I don't want to lead a team right now. Or to decide also, and this is tough because we both care so much about the work that we do, and we're like, we want everybody to love work. There are people out there that are like, why would I love work? Like, why would my dream job, like, why would I dream of labor? And so I think that we also,
that's a t-shirt right there. Why would I dream of labor?
I've seen that somewhere else. I don't think I came up with that. I'm pretty sure I've seen that in a tweet somewhere. But I think that we also have to accept that there's some folks, and I've known folks like this, who they're like, I'm never going to love what I do for work. They're like, I find my interest in other things elsewhere outside of work. So what I need to find is a job that I still find interesting, that pays well, that uses my skills and my strengths that I feel good about, but I'm never going to be the person that's like, wow, I love what I do. I need a job that balances in a way that allows me to do all the things outside of work that I love and want to do, because that's actually where my passions lie as well. And so sometimes, again, that's going to be somebody taking a step back and saying like, well, I don't want the director role, or I don't want this opportunity because I'm pursuing other things.
And we had so many situations like that, previous employers, where someone got promoted into a role that they didn't like, we didn't like. No one was happy with how it was going, but everyone feels like we have to make it work. You have to move forward. There's no moving sideways. There's no moving back. You move backwards, you might as well be dead, is the kind of feel, right? Like, if I take a step backwards.
Yeah. We need to shift that whole perspective.
Totally. I agree. And just because it didn't work for you one time doesn't mean it'll never work for you.
But it might
could
not
be
hit it
the
another
company.
moment.
Right. Mindset, life, like, so many things can be variables to, are you in the position to do that thing at that level? And it might not be now, doesn't mean it's never. And I think that's it. Same with entrepreneurship, right? Like, people who've tried building a business before and it didn't work doesn't mean you aren't an entrepreneur or you shouldn't try it again. It just might have meant that wasn't the right time for you, and that's okay. What did you learn from it? What would you do differently next time? And then find why it wasn't the right time then, and see if you can change those variables to try it again. It's really just that you get full control over what you want it to look like if you take the time to figure out what you want it to look like. But I think we skip that step a lot. We just
Yeah.
say employer or entrepreneur is like,
This is what
sorry,
I'm doing.
employee or entrepreneur is, this is the salary I need to get. This is the number of vacations days I need to get. That's just how it's always been done. I need benefits. I need blah, 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 blah. Or entrepreneur, I'm going to build an accounting firm. So I'm going to get accounting clients. I'm going to hire some junior accountants. I'm going to fill all my billable hours, and then maybe I'll sell this thing in 10, 20 years. There's just so many ways, especially now with AI enabled and technology.
Yeah.
Like, you can create the business or the employment you want largely if you can do the work to define it and then do the work to connect the dots. Not easy, but again, most things that are worth doing are never going to be easy, but they also aren't complicated. They can be pretty simple and straightforward. They just take some real hard questions
Yeah.
and some real thinking, and sometimes that's scary.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, when you're talking about moving into that entrepreneurial realm, I think one other thing that occurs to me around how people feel about work is there are some things that, you know, people do for hobbies or on the side, and then they decide, like, oh, I'm going to make a business out of it. And it takes all of the joy out of it too. And in that idea of like less is more, of like really assessing what are the things that you want to make work and what are the things that you want to leave as just like fun things that bring you a lot of joy. Amanda's a good example of somebody who probably liked experimenting and you know, pouring candles and was trying some things out and has launched it into this incredible business, and it's worked so well for her. But there's probably somebody somewhere else who's like, you know, I just like to pour 100 candles a year and it makes me happy, and I'm not trying to sell them. I give them away to gifts as gifts to family. But like, if I tried to turn it into a coal and canary, all the joy would be gone for me, right? And I
Totally.
think that there's something to be said for that too. Is what are those things that you want to leave as hobbies and not try and monetize everything?
Exactly. Not everything needs to be monetized. I think that really came through in the grace over grind idea, is that not every single thing needs to be a hustle, a grind, a do it all. You can just do because you like it. And that can be as far as it ever goes, and that's okay.
Yeah. And what I'm really excited about too is like somebody like Amanda is so creative. And I think even though she's making that shift to grace over grind, is still somebody who's very entrepreneurial and has a lot of ideas. And so what I'm excited for her now is making this shift and simplifying a little bit and now having more time for creativity. What does that mean for
Yeah.
the other things that she might do for fun, but also maybe the other things she might do that could turn into something else that's interesting and could be a new business or a new direction she goes. But she's now given herself that time and space to run the business that she wants to run, that allows her to live the life she wants to live, and maybe find some new like fun creative outlets that can turn into something really exciting as well.
Yeah. Yeah. I absolutely love it. Okay, just 3 minutes. I wanted to just
Great.
quickly share something I've been working on
Yes,
since
yes,
the
yes, yes.
conversation with Amanda that I wanted to share, and then I'll throw it over to you for any last words here, Jane. It really got me thinking, and I have not been able to drop it this entire time. She said she's been working with a coach to go and do this Zoom out, and not everyone's going to have access to that. And it got me thinking, how can we help give this tool out to more people to just, even if nothing changes, just for the awareness of where they're at now, where they might want to go. So I built what I'm calling an entrepreneurial life wheel, which if anyone's done a life wheel before, it's a big circle with 10 sections, and you kind of just give a 1 to 5 score on how well those things are going for you. But the difference with this one was just I took half of it, which is really more from your personal life side, and half of it, which is from your business side. So you could get an overall assessment of like where things are at as an entrepreneur, from the balance you need at
Yeah.
home life, fulfillment, purpose, contribution, but then also on the business side of your marketing, operations, IT, strategy, leadership, because they're so connected. And I've just never really, like, her conversation just being like, that's something that not everyone would be able to get to do. And it's so valuable, even if it's just a 30-minute exercise you do once. That step back and just, yeah, it gives you so much more visibility. So, and if anyone else that's live right now wants it, let me know afterwards. I'll be posting about it once it's ready. But if you're really interested, that would be my action item for this week, is give that some thought, and I'll share out the tool to help frame it. But I think that step back is so important. And if this is the trigger to make you do it, awesome.
Yeah, amazing. I love it. I think that's a great takeaway. We'll tell you right now, I want it when it's available. Please share it with me. I think that my takeaway or thing to sort of think about this week would maybe be for organizations and for leaders to start to think a little bit, and this is for HR folks too, that are responsible for engagement and building a workplace culture, or, you know, enabling a workplace culture through leaders, is to think like, how are we making our employees' lives better? And I don't just mean how are we making our employees' lives better in terms of like, oh, we do pizza lunches on Friday, which is great. Don't get me wrong, love a pizza lunch. But like, what are the actual ways that you are making it better for like their overall lives by working for your company? Whether it's in terms of flexibility, whether it's in terms of like benefits you offer, like a gym membership or a gym on site, or things that make their life more convenient, make things easier, as opposed to work being a roadblock to everything, as opposed to work making life harder. So that's maybe something that I would leave leaders and HR folks, organizations with to think about if it's something that they haven't already thought about.
Awesome. Yeah, I think it's something I'm hopeful that employers don't get too comfortable with being more or less in control of the employee situation, because it's going to turn at some point. It has to.
Well,
It
always.
always
Yeah.
does. So
And
if you
that,
get ahead of it, yeah, it's just
yeah,
so much better off.
build that foundation now. And even though you might feel like you have your pick right now, you're still going to benefit from having people working in a place where life is better. So they have more energy, they're more engaged, they're more bought in. You're always going to benefit from that, regardless of what market you're in from a hiring perspective.
Exactly.
Cool. All right.
Awesome,
Well,
Jane.
this has been lovely. I think next week we're not going to have a live. I'm out of town. So we'll be circling back on October 10th and are thinking a little bit about a couple of guests that we can maybe start to engage over the course of the last half of October as well. So, yeah, happy Friday. Have a good weekend, Jordan. Thank you. Yeah. Thanks so much. Okay. Bye, guys.